So you are going to be a full-time content creator in 6 months, and here's how you're going to do it. And I'm going to take you through every single step month by month so that you have everything you need to become a full-time creator and change your life forever. So let's get straight into this then. We're actually going to get started all the way at day 1, and this is where we're going to define our vision. And this is such a crucial part of this whole journey, but we're actually only going to spend 1 day on this, because what I don't want to happen is for you to get stuck here, and I don't want you to start over planning everything or overthinking this entire journey, because all we really need right now is clarity. We don't really need kind of a perfect business plan or something like that. Okay, so how do we actually define our vision? Well, a good way to think about this is when you're creating content, you're kind of building out your own small corner of the internet. And it's our job right now to figure out, what do we want that corner to look like? And when people discover your videos and start to watch your content, how do you want them to feel? And you've kind of got 2 different options here. So you can either go for long form content, so YouTube videos, and this is more for you if you're into the idea of storytelling or you want to go into more depth with your ideas, or you can go for short form content. So this is where you want to put out more videos and you like the idea of faster paced ideas. And there's no right or wrong answer here. Obviously, I'm going to be biased towards YouTube because I love exploring longer form ideas and I love storytelling, but it really comes down to how you feel you would naturally express yourself the best. Okay, so now we have a good idea of the format of content that we're going to create. Now it's time to come up with a content schedule for the next 6 months. And the best advice I can give you here is to create a schedule that you can actually stick to, even on your worst weeks. Because at the end of the day, life is very unpredictable. Life throws us curveballs all the time. I mean, I'm sure we've all had times where everything seems to be going wrong all at the same time. So with that in mind, it's important to create a schedule that we can still stick to, even if everything else is going wrong in our lives. Because when it comes to content creation, consistency is king. And I've got to be honest with you, the only way that you're going to turn this into a full-time income is if you have your consistency down. You cannot be, taking a month off or skipping weeks all over the place, which is why we need to create a sustainable creative rhythm that, again, you can actually stick to long term. And this mindset, creating a schedule that you can actually stick to regardless of what's going on in the rest of your life, has worked wonders for me on my own journey. And I'd say it's probably the only reason why I've actually been able to stay consistent long term. And if you're a little bit stuck on this, a really good place to start is if you're going for YouTube videos, so long form content, you can start with 1 video per week. And if you're going for short form content, so YouTube Shorts, Instagram Reels, TikToks, then I've found a really good place to start is 3 to 5 videos per week. Okay, so now we know the format of the videos that we're going to post, and we know how often that we're going to post videos. Now it's time to figure out who we're actually making videos for. And this is probably one of the biggest mistakes that I see beginners making, is they'll start to create content, but it's very, very clear that they haven't given any thought to their audience and the people watching their videos. And it's very, very clear that they're only really making content for themselves. And that's not necessarily a bad thing if you just want to make content for fun or you just want to enjoy content creation for what it is. But if you want to turn this into a full-time income, you have to start thinking more about the person watching your video instead of just thinking about yourself. Which is why from day 1, you want to start thinking about, what type of person am I speaking to? And what do they want out of life? And what kind of things are they struggling with as well? And maybe your answer to this is very simple. Maybe you're talking to your past self. So maybe you want to help other people who are dealing with the same kind of problems and struggling with the same things that you have overcome yourself. And like I said, this whole idea of defining your vision is something that you only need to spend 1 day on. So find a quiet Sunday where you've got nothing else to do and write all this out and come up with a game plan for the next 6 months. And you don't need to get stressed out about this. You don't need to overthink this part, because your vision is going to change and evolve as you go along your journey. So all you really need right now is a starting point that you can build on as you go. Okay, so now let's move on to talk about our first month of content creation. So now that we have our first day done and we've defined our vision, now it's time to just get going and start messy. And I'm going to be completely honest with you, I was doing some research for this video, so I was watching similar videos to this one, and I came across some pretty big YouTubers giving the advice that you should start actually posting content on month 3 or even month 4. And I just think that is the worst advice ever, because if you overplan and overthink everything, it gets to a point where you're not even preparing anymore, you're just procrastinating in disguise. And the truth is that you will never feel 100% ready to start posting videos on the internet. You will always feel a little bit anxious and a little bit unprepared. And as you know, if you've watched my videos before, I must have filmed my first video maybe over 10 times before I actually had the courage to post it on Instagram. And looking back, that was such a waste of time. And yes, in this stage, you might cringe at how you speak to the camera or how your voice sounds. I mean, I still cringe when I edit my videos, even now, but that's how it's meant to feel in the beginning. Now, something else to bear in mind in month 1 is that your videos are going to flop, but that doesn't mean that you're failing. So I get messages and comments all the time from people saying, you know, I just posted my first video and nobody watched it and now I'm really sad. And this might sound harsh, but what were you expecting? To post your first video and you wake up the next day with 1 million views and you're this overnight YouTube sensation. That just doesn't happen. So if you go into month 1 and you're kind of expecting to get thousands of views on your videos, you're gonna feel like a failure after just a few days. But if you go into your first month expecting 10 views on your videos, which is very, very likely, but then you get 43 views on a single video, you're going to be over the moon. And I do think it's really valuable to reframe these early numbers, because imagine if in real life you had to give a presentation to a group of people and you set up the chairs, you know, it's a very small room, and 50 people showed up to listen to you speak. That would be a big deal. And the funny thing is, that's kind of what's already happening. You're just not seeing it that way. And the best part about this first month is this is where I would say 99% of people quit. So if you are consistent, literally for 1 month, you're already in the top 1% of people who say they want to do this. Now, the final thing that we want to do in this first month is we want to create a freebie that we're going to give to our audience outside of social media or outside of YouTube. And this can be something like a free guide to fix a specific problem, or this could be a template or some sort of digital download. It can be anything really. And what this is going to allow us to do from the very beginning of our journey is to build an email list. Now, again, when you're creating the freebie, you don't want to spend too long on this. You don't want to, really overthink this. This is something that you could create in a single day. But this is how you're going to start setting up the business side of things early on in your journey, so that later down the line, a couple of months in, you're already prepared to start monetizing and turn this into a full-time income. Now, I've already made a video about how to set up an email list and, the best platform to use and things like that. So I'm not going to go into it in too much detail here, but I will leave a link in the description if you want to watch that video after this one. Okay, so let's move on to month 2, 3, and 4. And in this 90-day period, this is where we're going to start studying the game and experimenting with our content. Now, again, this is something that I also see a lot of beginners getting wrong, because I think a lot of, new creators, they spend a lot of time in those early days with low leverage, kind of pointless tasks. So they'll spend a lot of time over analyzing their YouTube analytics, or they'll spend all their time going around YouTube and commenting on loads of different videos to try and get some subscribers. That's not going to do anything. That's not going to help you. The only thing that you need to be focusing on right now is adopting the mindset of a student and learning the craft of creating videos that are actually going to resonate with your target audience. Because you've got to remember that in this stage, you only need one video to change everything. And every single creator that you watch, whether it's on YouTube or on social media, their story is always the same. They always have this period where nothing's really happening and they're not getting any views. And then they post one video that just takes off. And that's actually exactly what happened to me as well. Because at the end of the day, all you need is one idea, the right idea with the right execution for everything to change overnight. And I remember when I was first getting into content creation myself, and I posted a video, just one single video, and I went to bed and I think I had about 1,000 subscribers or 1,000 followers at the time. And I woke up the next day and I'd gone up by 10,000 followers in one night. So how are we going to increase the chances of creating content that's going to hit the algorithm just right and get our content to take off? Well, one of the best ways to do this is to study ideas that are already working and then just reverse engineer them. And I'm not talking about copying and I'm not talking about stealing, but we are going to study the game and then add our own unique twist and unique personality to proven ideas and concepts. So here is what this is going to look like. Well, first, we're going to pick 10 creators in your niche that you are inspired by and that they also have a similar type of audience to the one that you want to build. And then we're going to adopt a student mindset. So we're going to study their hooks. We're going to study the topics that they talk about. We're going to study how they present their ideas. And finally, we're going to reverse engineer the content. So you want to figure out how you can add your own experiences or your own unique storytelling or insights to build on these ideas and concepts that we know are already working. Okay, so let's move on to month number 5. And at this point in your journey, your views and your subscribers and your followers might still be very low. And that's completely fine, that's completely normal. But by now, you will have enough content to start noticing patterns. So you will have certain videos that are outperforming the rest of your content. So for example, maybe you have, 1 or 2 videos that are double the views of, the rest of your videos. And even if the overall views on your videos are still quite low, you can still start to notice patterns. And this is where it's time to double down on what's already working. So you want to take a look at your videos that are outperforming the rest and think, what was it about this video that made it outperform? Was it the topic of the video? Was it the title and thumbnail if you're on YouTube? Was there a very strong and compelling hook in that video? And this is where you can start to get more strategic, because if you can notice these patterns, then you can start to lean into these patterns and start building momentum. So if you had a specific idea in a video that did really well, is there a way that you can build on that idea in another video? And let me give you an example from this channel. So I posted this video a couple of months ago, and this is the video that allowed my channel to completely take off. And when that happened, I asked myself, how can I recreate certain aspects of this video that did really well? So a couple of weeks later, I made this video right here, which in the thumbnail, I'm doing a very similar pose. I've got my head on my arm, and the format of the title is very similar as well. And it actually worked. So what a coincidence, that second video that I posted is now the second most viewed video on this channel. So yeah, building momentum as a content creator isn't about luck. It's about noticing patterns in your existing content and then building on those patterns. Okay, so for the final month, this is where we're going to start to monetize. Now, generally speaking, there are 2 ways that you can monetize. So you can make money from other people's products, or you can make money from your own products. Now, if you want to make money from other people's products, you're mainly looking at things like sponsorships. And actually, the first time I ever made money as a content creator was from a sponsorship. And as your audience does start to grow, you will get companies reaching out for sponsorships. For example, I get companies reaching out quite a lot now for this channel, but I don't really want to do sponsorships on this channel just yet, but that's a whole different story. So that is one way to make money, but you can also, of course, sell your own products. So this is things like, digital products, courses, communities, or maybe you could do one-on-one coaching. And this is where your freebie that we talked about earlier comes in. Because now, given the fact that we set all that up in the very first month, we've now been slowly collecting emails for 6 months. And I can tell you from personal experience that building up an email list literally from day one is such a good way to start making money early on in your journey. Now, like I said, there are many different types of products that you can sell as a content creator. And if you're a bit stuck on this, I made this video for you right here, where I show you how to make your first $1,000 as a creator and what type of product is right for you. So yeah, click onto that video and I'll see you there.